El Salvador's president, Nayib Bukele, is at the top of U.S. headlines because of his role in Trump's latest deportation spectacle, which openly violated a judicial order and opened the door for a constitutional crisis.
On March 15th, a plane carrying 230 Venezuelans detained by ICE landed in El Salvador.
Trump used the Alien Enemies Act of 1798 to speed up deportations of Venezuelans. This law was meant for wartime, like when 120,000 Japanese Americans were put in internment camps during World War II. This isn't just about violating one order. It's all part of a bigger play by Trump and his allies to expand presidential power
and steamroll traditional checks and balances. So how does El Salvador play into that?
The migrants were sent to the largest prison in the Americas. That's the Center for Terrorism Confinement, with a capacity of 40,000 people, and it's known for extreme human rights abuses under President Nayib Bukele. Trump and his billionaire allies are obsessed with Nayib Bukele, El Salvador's self-proclaimed cool dictator. Elon Musk even vowed to bring Bukele's model of extrajudicial jailings to the US, declaring it will happen. Trump's deportation flights are part of a bigger plan for the billionaires to push for their own version of Bukele's authoritarian playbook. Coincidence? Hardly. So let's go over what Bukele's record is and understand what Trump is so fascinated with. In 2020, just 1 year into his presidency, Nayib Bukele made global headlines by leading a January 6th-style insurrection. Led by the head of the military and police and their officers, Bukele stormed the country's parliament, surrounding lawmakers and pressuring them to fund his violent anti-crime plan that he accused them of stalling on. Since then, Bukele became the darling of the global right wing. In 2021, when his party won a supermajority in the Legislative Assembly, his party immediately fired all 5 Supreme Court judges and replaced them with loyalists.
He also made Bitcoin legal tender, which led to tens of thousands taking to the streets to oppose this measure.
In 2022,
Bukele suspended constitutional rights under a state of exception,
disappearing over 80,000 people without due process into extremely overcrowded jails.
The conditions in the prisons not shown in Bukele's propaganda are far worse and far more deadly than even the shiny mega prison Matt Gaetz and the mainstream media are allowed to tour.
Activists in El Salvador have been raising the alarms about the growing numbers of disappeared people, with stories of people found innocent and having court orders for their release, but still being held behind bars with their families and lawyers unable to speak to them for years on end to confirm if they're even still alive. And by Bukele's own admission, 10% of those incarcerated in El Salvador are innocent. So activists who are fighting to find their loved ones in these jails are speculating the numbers are significantly higher. Bukele is now serving a second term as president, even though the Salvadoran constitution says he can't. He didn't change the constitution, he quite literally just ignored it. While Bukele claims he is only targeting gangs with his dictatorial power, his track record proves otherwise. Most recently, Bukele's government arrested Fidel Zavala, a human rights activist and whistleblower who exposed torture in Salvadoran prison. Zavala was arrested with 20 other activists from the La Floresta community for fighting for their rights to remain in their homes. Zavala has now been ordered to 6 months pretrial imprisonment, awaiting his hearing in Bukele's organized crime court. So, to recap, Bukele is trying grassroots movements and grassroots organizers as illegal organizations and putting them in the same courts that legal proceedings happen for alleged gang members.
In 2023, 5 elderly anti-mining activists, known as the Santa Marta Five,
were jailed for 21 months without trial. Then they were fully acquitted, and now they're being retried
on the exact same charges that are decades old
with no new evidence. Journalists and artists aren't safe either. Reporter Monica Rodriguez and artist Carlos Najera had their homes raided and equipment seized without warrants. The repression has forced El Salvador's top independent news outlet, El Faro, to relocate to Costa Rica, calling it too dangerous to operate at home. Bukele's crackdown on dissent shows no limits. Land defenders, activists, journalists, and even artists are all under threat. And in Trump's ideal world, he too would have supermax prisons without due process where he could stick all of his political enemies. So it is clear that Bukele, Trump, Argentina's Javier Milei, Elon Musk, and other right-wing leaders are all learning from each other's playbooks. They're using people's fears about safety in the economy to push their agendas and grab more power. This isn't really about immigration or crime for Bukele or Trump.
It's about consolidating a new form of political rule where you retain the appearance of democracy while stripping away the right to dissent.